Hey folks, Jeff here at Back to Country. Appreciate y'all stopping by the channel today. So today we got something to talk about. We've been busy, we're moving forward, but there is a lot to still be done. And one of those particular things is what I'm going to ask for your help with. And that's, what are we going to do about electricity? To grid or not to grid? Let's get on it. So if you've been following our channel very long, you know this right here is basically our power grid. We're using two inverter type generators, 2,000 watt peak, 1,700 run watts doubled. So what does that give us? 3,400 run watts, 4,000 peak. And that's a pretty fuel efficient way to go. And we've got some other bigger generators as backup. But let's be honest, that's not a good long-term solution. It's a backup, it's a initial process, I guess, or capability. But long term, it ain't gonna cut it. Now we bought this property in 2012. So basically 10 years we've been coming out here, doing a little bit of work at a time, trying to get this place fixed up and get it to where we could build this nice building. And eventually we're going to build our living quarters in there and we'll move here full time. That plan seems to be fluid as far as the timeline, but the plan remains the same. But if I'm going to run a shop, and now I'm not running a commercial shop, this is my own, call it a hobby shop, whatever, where I fix my tools, fix my toys, whatever. But man, I want capability in that shop. I'd like to do some metal work, like with a lathe, a mill. You know, if I could afford it, I'd even like to have a CNC, but I don't see that in the budget anytime soon because I got so many other priorities. So let's just start with, you know, the plans for a lathe and a mill. And of course, we got all our welding gear and plasma cutters and things like that. And then we have just, you know, general tools. We're going to have air for pneumatics to run tools, and I'd like to put a lift in so that I can do auto work. You know, I tinker in a little bit of everything, and I try to fix all my own stuff. So having a nice shop is definitely a plus. But if you're going to run a nice shop, you're going to need electricity. So we've started exploring our options. Now, of course, in a perfect world, it would be lovely to stay off grid the way we've been. I'm just not sure that's realistic. So we started looking into solar systems. And, you know, as far as solar capabilities go, if you have watched Ambition Strikes, that's another YouTube channel. And they do a lot of cool stuff. And they put together a solar, they're off grid, and they put together their solar package with basically the capabilities that I'm looking for. They got a, you know, barn-dominium type structure and plasma table and welders and everything else. And so they want to be able to run their shop stuff as well. And so they put in a big solar system to power their living quarters as well as their shop and tools. And then, you know, enough battery capability so that they can make it through days where they don't get a lot of sunshine or whatever. And they spent $50,000 on their system. So, you know, I use that as kind of a rough guide. Now prices keep going up on everything, so I'm not sure I could even do it for $50,000 now. I would do a lot more of the work myself in theory, and that would be some savings. But even with that, I'm still not sure I could even do it for $50,000. But they have a scalable system, so you could start out a little bit smaller and grow from there. So let's just go with that number, 50,000. I don't have 50,000 right now, just for starters. So we are basically debt free, and we're working to be completely debt free. Our only debt is our mortgage on our house in San Antonio, and it's I want to say about 2.25% is where it's financed at. So the payments are low. I mean, with insurance and everything, we're paying like $900 a month, so that's really cheap, comparably speaking. And then we financed Lorena's car. The only reason we financed the car, we actually had the cash at the time to pay for it, but they were offering 0% financing, and so we went in and negotiated a cash price. And then at the last minute, we did the old switcheroo and said, well, what about that financing deal you got going? So it was like a 4-year deal at 0%. And so we went ahead and financed that, for the main reason that if we were to pay cash, that's cash that wouldn't be making any money for us, so it ain't earning any interest or anything if it's spent. And also it would have been cash that we didn't necessarily have available for projects here. So since we're doing all of this in cash, and our end goal is to be completely debt free, which, you know, obviously the car is going to be paid off. I think we got 2 more years on that, but that's $525 a month, and it's okay. We're good with that. And then the house payment, which we will eventually sell. The market seems to be going down a bit right now, so we're not in a hurry to sell it. Our daughter's living there as well, so we're trying to help her out, and maybe my son's even gonna move back in, and we're gonna help him out too, so that they can be debt free. And that's our goal, is to help them to get debt free. And so we'll just kind of keep doing what we're doing until time where we decide that it's time to change. So what are our options here? We can either do solar, which means I basically have to start saving money to do that, and I don't know, I'm probably, maybe I have 20,000. I don't know. I'd have to go do some admin math and everything and see what I got that's liquidable. But the point is, I'm not even close to that 50,000, so it would take me some time to save that. And while I'm saving that, that makes it harder to do things out here that require money. So let's set that aside. The pros and cons to that, obviously, as far as we can see, the pro, of course, is staying off grid, having our own good power generation capability. Backup to that would still be generator, and we do plan to purchase a whole home type generator. You know, whether that's a Guardian, Generac, whatever. There's a whole bunch of different brands out there, but that is a plan. So we will do that eventually regardless. And you know, no bills, no being tied to or relying on the grid. You know, that's I guess the pros. The cons is the money. It's a big expense. Requires the batteries. The batteries are the biggest part of the expense. And it ain't forever. It will require maintenance and upgrade and things like that over the years. So that's, you know, it may be more expensive in the long run. It's hard to say. So that's, you know, that I can think of right off the top of my head, the cons. So what other options do we have? We could stay on generator, which, you know, there's more cons than pros on that, so that's not a good option. And the other one, of course, is to tie to the grid. So we talked to the power company, and let me show you what the basic gist of that is. So right here you can see a marker pole. So that's just a stick in the ground with a flag on it, and from there, if you can see way down at the end of the road there, there's a power pole sticking up. So that is the closest point of power. It runs across our property. There's already a right-of-way that was there before we bought the property. It comes up the main street across our property there, and then it turns and heads another direction off to the southeast. So it was approximately 500 feet from there to here, and so we want underground. If we're going to go with power, we want it underground, and basically the requirement to do that is we would have to dig the ditch, which is not a problem because I have excavators, so I can dig a ditch from there to here. It has to be a minimum of 2 feet. I would like it much deeper, just because I don't want to ever have to worry about digging, hitting it, whatever. So I would probably go about 8 feet. But again, I love running the excavator, so that ain't a big deal to me. A little bit of diesel and you know, some time in the seat, but as far as I'm concerned, that's all good, and I don't mind doing it. They would provide the wire and the conduit. It'll be inside conduit, and it'll run from there to here, and then here will sit a transformer, you know, ground type, above ground, whatever you want to call it, transformer. And then we'll have to run the wiring, minimum again of 2 feet deep, from the building where the meter box is going to go, and run that to here, leaving like 5 feet of tab hanging out so they can connect that to the transformer when they put it in. They will not, of course, go live until everything is buried and approved. And as far as what has to be on the building, I've got to have a meter box. I've got to have a cutoff. And because of what we're going to run and everything, the recommendation is 400 amp service. And I agree with that, because we're not just running these two things. We're going to have pump houses and things like that, and running power to the greenhouses, which will be down in there, and you know, going to run power to our RV campsite for friends to come, whatever. And you know, so there's a lot of power needs beyond just running the shop. Of course, the living quarters as well. So 400 amp service, which basically for 400 amp service, I need a the 400 amp meter panel and the cutoff switch minimum before they'll hook up. And then you know, after that we'll go down to our main panel and sub panels, etc. So when you jump from 200 amp to 400 amp service, the price goes up significantly. So we're probably looking anywhere from 2,500 to 4 grand, could be even higher. I think we can do it for 4 grand or less, but that's a lot of money. In the big scheme of things, I guess it ain't much, I don't know. Anyway, so let's just say that because I need the meter panel and everything, let's just go with 4 grand. I think we can do it for that. And then what's it going to cost for them? $4,600. So the power company wants $4,600 to do the run from the power pole to here, and the transformer and everything. So there we're looking at about 8,600. So let's just round that up and say 9 grand. So 9,000 versus 50,000. The 9,000 I have it, the 50,000 I don't. Man, that's a big dilemma. The pros of being on the grid, I mean, the price obviously is the huge pro. The service out here is pretty good. I mean, I don't hear a lot of complaints. Power goes out occasionally, but we're like right at the end of a service area, and the service area that we're going to be on is the more reliable one. And so you know, I guess that's a pro. Cost is a pro. Service reliability is a pro. No requirements for doing a whole lot of maintenance and things like that. Now there is a monthly bill. That's a con. But this building is going to be super efficient. I mean, we've got spray foam throughout the building, and we're going to spray foam the living quarters again additionally. So it's going to be an insulated building inside of an insulated building. So as far as our costs to heat and cool and all that, honestly, it should be pretty efficient. So we should be pretty good there. And then it just comes down to how much power do I use in the shop, and there's no way to gauge that because it just depends on what I'm up to. Anyway, we'd like your guys' feedback on that. I know some of you out there have solar. Let me know what we're missing as far as, you know, pros and cons that you can think of, and advice that you've got. Not going to say we're going your direction. We really haven't made up our mind one way or the other. It's a very tough decision because it's just tough. I do hate the idea of going on the grid and relying on the man, so to speak. But at the same time, the money is significant. And until I know what the bills are, it's kind of hard to do a, you know, month by month comparison of how long it would take for them to be equal. And there's no saying that we can't go ahead and add solar later. And maybe if it becomes too much of a burden, dump the grid service and go strictly to solar. I don't know. That would be a bridge we'd cross when we got there. But definitely, you know, adding solar would be something to consider in the future. It just wouldn't be a priority in the near future. And of course, remember, we're going to build a house. So this is all our get here temporary plan, and then eventually up the hill, we're going to build a big house. And, you know, maybe that'll all be solar. Maybe it'll be on the grid. Cross that bridge when we get to it. But I do like redundancy. So no matter which way we go, there will be backups. There definitely will be some solar capabilities no matter what. I mean, because the distances between things on our property, for example, we're going to drill some wells out here, and when we start drilling water wells, we're not going to be able to run power cords to everything. So some of those water wells, I would love to have a windmill running a pump and have a wind capability for a water well. I would love to have a solar pump capability, and I would love to have like a, what is it, a Bison pump, or Buffalo Bison, I believe is the name of the company that does deep well hand pumps. I'd love to have that capability as well. So lots of redundancy. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Everybody knows that one if you're familiar with just being prepared. So definitely we're going to have redundancy. We'll have multiple capabilities. We're not getting rid of any of our generators, so we'll always have that capability, and that's good regardless of what we're doing up here, because like I say, sometimes we move around the property, we'll do different things, and maybe I'm going to need power clear at the other end of the power of the property to work on a project. So we'll keep the generators definitely for those types of capabilities. If the power goes out, we'll want backup. Yeah, we want backups to everything. So we'll continue to share that with y'all. If you stuck with this video this long, I appreciate your attention span. And if you got some feedback for us and some ideas and comments to help us make this decision on to grid or not to grid, we would definitely appreciate your input so that we can take all that into consideration before we make our final decision. God bless you all as always. Take care. We'll see you on the next one.